Well, hello out there in internet land. My name is Frank Lavinia, and you're watching Frank's World TV. Um, and so far, enjoying my summer. Kids are done with school after today, and who knows? Maybe I'll have a visitor pop through the door when they ask me to buy them something on the iPad or like their game or whatever. Um, Today, I want to talk about Adobe. Now, I have been a self-described Adobe fanboy for a number of years. And I see the comment. This is actually still my office. I didn't move any furniture. I'm just on a different computer right now because I had my headset paired to this one, and I was kind of lazy, and I didn't feel like pairing it to that one. Um, excuse me. But I am planning on doing a bunch of things here. I actually have a couple of hard drives here. I'm actually in the middle of building out a NAS out of an old desktop. And yeah, I thought about buying kind of Synology or whatever, but I figured why not? Let's just try it. I was going to put in, oh, there's the dingo. He is probably going to want to steal some of the spotlight. But in any case, I wanted to talk about Adobe. I have been an Adobe fanboy for a number of years, self-described Adobe fanboy. I have been a Photoshop user since 1993, I want to say. So my first experience was Photoshop 2.5 on the Mac, and I remember when they added layers. So I've been a big fan of Adobe products for decades. Um, you know what hurts? Being able to say that. As well as at the graduation ceremony yesterday for my oldest, who's leaving eighth grade, um, I had the baby with me, and somebody says, "Oh, is that your grandson?" I was like, "Oh dear God." But you know what? Aging is a privilege denied to many. So in any case, let's talk about Adobe. So for those of you who don't know, Adobe updated their terms of services, and unlike the majority of us in the world, somebody just didn't click and say yes, yes, yes. Somebody actually poked at this, and this is the part that has people, rightfully so, kind of upset. And basically, for Section 4.2. 42 is not the answer in this case. Um, it's the root cause of a lot of problems. Basically, you, meaning you, the paying subscriber to their service, and I've been a paid Adobe Creative Cloud subscriber for 8 years. I looked at it the other day. Actually, probably longer because when I left Microsoft in 2016, my company gave it to me for like a little over a year or two because I was doing videos for them too. So probably for the better part of 10 years, I would say, without exaggeration, I had been a subscriber, whether it was through Microsoft or whether it was through my own money. But I've been shelling out my own money for the better part of 8 years. So it basically says solely for the purposes of operating or improving the services and software, you grant us a non-exclusive, worldwide, royalty-free sub-licensable license to use, reproduce, publicly display, distribute, modify, create derivative works upon, publicly perform, and translate the content. Um, for example, we may sub-license our right to the content to our service providers or other users to allow the services and software to operate as intended. Now, there's a number of takes on this. One of which is, I think, more charitable, is that in order to operate a cloud service, they have to have these very um, broad licenses, sweeping powers. They're Adobe's a big company. They can afford better lawyers. They know exactly what they're doing here. This isn't somebody who stayed in the Holiday Inn last night is writing this legal document. They know what they're doing. So one of the more interesting things about this is that Adobe is one of those few technology companies that everyone knows about. They're not quite the household name that Microsoft is, but if you look at their broad sweep of technology, um, whether it's you know whether it's the creative arts, right? Whether it's PDFs, here's an interesting video that kind of inspired me to do this, right? This was just doing a search for Adobe, and mainstream news outlets are getting in on this, right? So what does that mean what does that tell you when mainstream, the normies, are concerned about this, right? And a news station, chances are, many moons ago, I dated a girl who was worked at a news station, and apparently all the graphics that you see, those were all built with Adobe products, right? So all Adobe After Effects, Adobe Premiere. Um, just shows you how entrenched Adobe is to the creative world and the media, right? And also, this guy here, if you listen to the video, he goes on that he's a lawyer and everything he does now is in PDFs. And he uses Adobe Cloud to store the data there and do the signatures, and all of that stuff now does fall under that. And, this is a problem for multiple reasons. One, the privacy one's obvious. So let's just table that. One of the concerns is, and rightfully so, is that one of the aspects here is that because you're giving them a such a broad license, right, to do all this, the implication is very clear that you are giving them the license to train AI on this, right? You're giving them the raw data. Now, I don't have an MBA, but I can tell you this: angering your customers is not the right way to go about your business. And there's plenty of examples in the modern world where companies have turned their back on their core people, their core constituency of customers. And this is a great example. Creatives are the backbone. Now, I know Adobe has kind of got its fingers in everywhere, PDFs, things like that, but creatives are really their backbone, right? That's their center of gravity, are the creative class, the creative groups of people who are already on edge because they are very concerned about being replaced with AI. So what do you do? What does Adobe do? You put them even more on edge. Not a good strategy. And this affects me personally because the podcasts I do, the live stream, just about everything you see on Frank's World TV. Actually, this is being done through Restream and things like that. But some of the video clips that you see, some of those are that I do. I do all my video editing in Premiere. I do the podcast is all edited in Adobe Audition. And now that I am at risk now of everything there, Adobe just feels like they own it. And that is extremely arrogant. It's extremely, I mean, you want to talk about when I worked at Microsoft, one of the internal training kind of sayings was, Microsoft runs on trust, how we are not going to violate the bonds of trust. And when customers expect a certain amount of privacy from us, they are not just breaking it; they're smashing through it at 100 miles per hour, waving sledgehammers around, like Mjolnir, like the Thor. That the Thor's hammer's name is Mjolnir. This is a disaster, and the way Adobe has responded to this, I think, has actually made things worse. Right? So they have a number of blog posts that are out there, right? That have been because this is just execution. I mean, ridiculously made things worse, right? So here's the problem. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure a blog post is not as legally binding as an actual honest to God terms of service. So for them to write these blog posts where that basically you can um, summarize with kind of trust me, bro, we're not going to steal your stuff. Um, oh, you own your content and we don't train generative AI on customer content. So, but this is, in a court of law, and this is ultimately realistically going to get into the legal aspect of it. Um, this is almost certainly going to go to court. I'm not a lawyer, but I spent a lot of time with lawyers in the last year. This is going to have a lot more weight, the terms of service, because someone could say, well, I'm suing Adobe because they used my artwork in um, this thing here, right? Um, they're using my artwork. Um, well, hold on, let me restart this because somebody's digging me and it's annoying. Um, lack of focus today. All right, so what I foresee happening is that someone, when this goes to court, and I say when because the likelihood of this happening is pretty strong, and part of that is that Adobe has such a deep integration with our creative systems and creative works around the world. I mean, I saw a screenshot where I can't verify the veracity of it, but basically someone showed, here's what a production movie looks like in Adobe Premiere. And for those who don't know, Premiere is a video editing software that, chances are everything you've watched in the theater has gone through Premiere at some point. Um, everything you watch on TV, After Effects, every title graphic you see, special effects. I mean, these tools are everywhere, right? And I was a big Adobe fanboy because they made these tools accessible to, well, just about anyone. I mean, $50 a month, as a subscription, it's pretty reasonable. These software used to be very expensive. So the other thing you're seeing is um, a lot of content creators use Adobe tools, right? So you basically have people just, really freaked out because if they're professional content creators, they are making their living on stuff they create, and then you basically, hidden inside the terms of and services, terms of conditions or terms of use, whatever, is a exclusive right to give that away in however Adobe sees fit. That's how I read it. The blog post of Trust Me Bro, okay. And to which I mean, I don't think that they've really thought this through in any meaningful way, where if they wanted these clarifications, they've got lawyers. They have probably very expensive lawyers, and a whole legal department, I would wager. I never worked at Adobe, so I don't know how they're internally structured. But big tech company, they're gonna have a legal department. Why aren't some wording like this included in the terms of service? Now, I do have some faith in this, that they are going to have some kind of update by June 18th. But I am very concerned about this. And it's also making me wonder, gee, I've taken a pretty big dependency hit on one technology platform. And for those of you who don't know, this is something that I don't do anymore because I used to be very heavily invested in the Microsoft ecosystem, from phone to desktop, everything. And I still am. I mean, this is a Windows computer I'm on. That's a Windows computer. That's a Linux machine, right? My servers are, the NASA building is going to be some flavor of Windows Server. So I'm not completely away, but I have an Android phone. I have an iPad tablet. Um, um, the collapse of Windows Phone and the collapse of Microsoft Silverlight has really kicked over, and the utter failure of Windows 8 in the marketplace is what really started me down the path of going towards open source. Now, fortunately, there are tons of open source tools that, at least with audio production, um, for what I use for Audacity, would be probably the most easy lift, because I've used Audacity before. Audacity was great. A great tool. The first podcast I ever did, Frankie's Friday Flashback, was actually completely edited in and Audacity. So it wouldn't be that hard to learn. But I know there's things now for video editing like DaVinci. Um, I just find this very concerning that one decision made in one office, this is why I like open source, one decision made in one office in somewhere on the West Coast of the United States can have this massive implication. Um, and for those of you that don't believe me, about actually it was when my oldest was a baby, so about 14, 15 years ago, I wrote this book. I was a big believer in Silverlight. Um, but the whole notion of putting all your eggs in one basket, very dangerous. So even if Adobe does kind of figure this out on the 18th, this has highlighted a single point of failure dependency in my work stream and everything I do that is going to have me reevaluate my relationship with Adobe. Now, notice I didn't say like I'm canceling my subscription right away. I can't really do that because I have a number of video and podcasting things kind of in the works that are in Adobe, and I don't want to have to retool before I get those out the door. But this has definitely brought to my attention that, gee, I have a single point of failure problem, and I have to fix that. I can't let that go. Yes, that is the Mortal Kombat logo. I got that at it was like Northern Virginia Comic Con. I went there and they were selling these. My son got the Sonic the Hedgehog and I got the Mortal Kombat one. Mortal Kombat got me through college. Let's put it that way. So anyway, I'm hoping that they'll be more precise. But from what I can tell on YouTube, you know, the the media, whether it's mainstream, whether it's something like TechCrunch, which is kind of mainstream, kind of not, to just individual creators are. I mean, look at this one, Game from Scratch, right? Chances are your favorite YouTuber, maybe even your favorite TikToker, Instagram person, that stuff that they post has probably gone through some kind of Adobe product, and by annoying their customer base, they've actually ignited this whole wildfire. I mean, this terms of use, I can't get a straight answer. It was either Friday but the internet was on fire over the weekend, right? I mean, and every time so I made this meme, right? And I really feel that way. That scene from Bane, or with Bane, it was The Dark Knight Rises, and it was basically like, I've given you a significant amount of money. It was like, well, does it give you power over me? That's how I feel with Adobe. So I don't, I'm not going to, up here and say I'm immediately canceling my subscription. I really can't do that. But just because I got things already kind of in the pipeline, but I am definitely going to think twice about it. Plus, saving $50 a month, saving $50 a month, and the only cost will be, how long will it take to learn DaVinci Resolve? And I know there's a lot of other competitive products that ordinarily didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of competing with Adobe. Now suddenly they have a lot of interest. They have a lot of people who would use the product. So it's amazing. And it's just funny, like, if you look at this here, like just the lack of self-awareness is just comical, right? In a world where customers are anxious about how their data is used and how generative AI models are trained, it is the responsibility of customers that host customer data and content to declare their policies, not just publicly, but in their legally binding terms of use. There it is. So this public, blog post or whatever in a court of law probably would not have the same gravitas that in actual terms of use. I really don't know what they were thinking when they did this. I don't think this is what they expected. So stay tuned. It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. So with that, I will play a graphic that I did use Adobe tools to create, and I guess they own it too. So